This YCN segment is brought to you by Harris Family Furniture in Plymouth, Laconia, and Chichester.
Welcome back, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Andrew Zerhide. We continue with our look back, final segment on the look back of 2017. We have the Boston Celtics, and before we get to what they've done, what they did at the end of 2017, what they did at the beginning of 2017 with the emergence of Isaiah Thomas and that team who, under Brad Stevens, they had gotten Al Horford. It looked like, okay, they were going to be okay. And then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but Isaiah Thomas kind of just takes over. And for basically the entire year, mostly the second half, just carried that team. Unbelievable 40-point games, big shots, game-winning shots. Not really unlikely, but kind of a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I think his offense was absolutely his strength. Everyone knew that. He can't really play defense.
Right.
I mean, just his size. But offensively, yeah, he was doing some crazy things at the end of games. People called him the King of the Fourth, which is kind of a Game of Thrones play, King of the North, but King of the Fourth, because he was averaging like 13 points in the fourth quarter. He was leading the league in clutch shooting in the fourth and really won a ton of games when the Celtics were so far behind. They would just give him the ball and he would hit like 4 threes in a row with guys in his face. It was ridiculous. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think anyone predicted what he did. And, I mean, the fact that he's not here, that trade, right?
Right,
it's a little shocking.
A little shocking because the way the season ended, because it looked like he was going to be their leader and carry them.
Right.
But then you get into the playoffs, and he gets hurt, and they weren't able to, beat the Cavs. They lose to the Cavs in 5 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it kind of showed that if they were going to keep Isaiah, the lack of depth that they had around him and the lack of, not because Isaiah was a ball hog, so to speak, but he did take a lot of shots. He needed a lot of shots because that was his only real attribute, was shooting. So I don't want to say the writing was on the wall because that kind of materialized in the offseason, but it was kind of interesting to see that it was always Isaiah, and if he was gone, they just didn't have anybody to step up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think in that, once he was out, I mean, once he went down with that hip injury, you could just see how poorly the Celtics were. I mean, they snuck a win.
Yes,
they beat the Cavs in one game without him, which was kind of shocking. But for the most part, they got completely blown out without him. And I think that kind of told Danny Ainge, maybe I need to rethink this Isaiah Thomas guy. And, with his contract coming up, they were going to have to make a decision.
Right.
Are we going to pay a ton of money long-term to a player we sub out when we have to play defense at the end of the game? Or do we trade him and try to get somebody else a superstar like we've been trying to do? And, I mean, right now, at this point in the Celtics season, we can see that trade for Kyrie Irving. They gave up a ton, a ton of stuff, but right now it's looking like a great deal for Boston.
Exactly, and so that brings us to that trade. And in the NBA, you have to give up stuff to get stuff. There's none of these, prospects that you're going to trade away like in baseball, or a journeyman offensive lineman who you're going to release and then somebody's going to pick him up. But you got to give value up to get value. But so that turns into this season. They signed Gordon Hayward. Obviously, that didn't work out too well so far this year, but they did sign or trade for Kyrie Irving and gave up Thomas and draft picks. And then they started the season. Gordon Hayward injured the first game.
The first 5 minutes.
And then they lose again, then they go on a 17-game winning streak.
Right.
Obviously, we're sitting here in the middle of the season, but that start of that season was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was. I think they definitely, played beyond their expectations. 17 straight without Gordon Hayward, that's really crazy. They've kind of come back down to earth at this point. But, no one could have expected that start. And I think one of the weaknesses with the Celtics, besides Kyrie Irving and Horford, sometimes they struggle to get guys scoring. I know Tatum and guys like Brown have been really good, but they really need that one guy who can score. So imagine if they had Hayward right now.
Right.
Imagine how good they could be. I mean, I think they would be in the same conversation with maybe the Cavs and the Warriors and all those top teams. So, at this point in the year, I think they've definitely exceeded their expectations.
Right.
What do they have, 30-something, getting close to 30 wins?
They played a lot of games, and I think they have like 27 or something like that. Yeah, so they're right up there, and they're leading. They're pretty close to leading in the Eastern Conference. Not sure exactly the standings right now, but they've definitely exceeded expectations. And last year with Isaiah Thomas, a lot of fans loved him, and they were sad to see him go. But for the good of this team, it was just the best position for them. So that's where they stand now. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll do our final segment. We'll do our Salt Hill Pub picks of the week. We'll do it a little differently as we pick how we think the teams are going to do in 2018. 18. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.